right? Varys to Aerys, the Mad King, while he was his hand, or at least on his council, and Tyrion being like, I don't really understand what's going on here. And he says specifically, Dany is not her father, and she will never be. With the right counsel, you need to make her listen. Varys says this to Tyrion. So what do we learn here? I think there's a lot of similarities in Dany and her father, but I think Varys is telling him, like, I wasn't able to get to Aerys, you need to be able to be better than I was.
I think a big part of it is that Varys is kind of talking a little bit about like the concessions you have to make in your head. Like when he was with Aerys about these aren't like they're being burned or they're being tortured, whatever it might be, but like I'm not the one doing it, so it's okay. And yes, I caught them spying, but this isn't me, creating the consequences. But I think a big part of this conversation, obviously they're both under the judgment that what Dany did to Randall and Dickon is wrong. I think this really depends on what you, specifically as a viewer, as a fan of the show or the books, believes. Like, do you think Dany is out of line? Do you not? It just brings up this whole potential character arc and this break between fans.
Is she becoming her father? Is she becoming the Mad Queen?
Right.
Where do you guys fall on that? Do you guys think she's becoming the Mad Queen, or do you think she's being fair?
I think if it's hard to say because clearly some of what we've seen her do already has been because we've been in military conflict. But I was a little uneasy at the beginning of the episode when she roasted both Randall Tarley and Dickon Tarley alive.
By the way that she killed them, that was especially brutal, and not like just beheading them. She chose to burn them in a brutal
both. Yeah. I guess I'm kind of in the Ned Stark camp, the one who bears the judgments that swing the sword. She was not swinging that sword. Like, her dragon definitely got to do it.
She gave the command.
Yeah.
But she didn't have to do it. Like, I'm assuming, I don't know for sure, but there's probably some kind of emotional connection between somebody that you are physically beheading and yourself. Like, you have to do it.
That's fair. I think that's a fair point. I said a couple episodes ago that I feel like she's on that line. She's towing it for sure. Mm-hmm. She scares me at moments because you feel like she's crossing a line, but in this episode I didn't feel like it. They want a war. The Lannister people either have to submit to what she wills or essentially they die. She can't just send them back or else they're going to go rejoin Cersei, you assume. So for me, I didn't feel like that in this episode was too bad, but the way that Tyrion is looking at it is like his people that he grew up with who protected him are now being burnt at the stake, and now he's struggling with what that means, but he knows overall that she's a better-hearted person, or at least in his opinion, than Cersei is, even though she's the queen right now.
And it's this, I don't know, I go back to, I think Daenerys is a silent master of PR. Like, Dany knows that, like, hey, I got to burn these people alive. People need to fear me in King's Landing. They need to know what I have, and I will always give them the choice to either bend the knee and follow me or die like these people did. So if that spreads, hopefully there's less and less conflict that she has to run into eventually because people know that she's a force to be reckoned with. Before we move past the scene, too, I did want to bring up back to the Varys and Tyrion discussion. I think we saw another layer peeled back on Varys this week too, and I think we've talked about that a little bit, right? Where maybe he's not all manipulative, and maybe there's at least some percentage of him that is compassionate, and some percentage of him that is that has emotion. You know, like we've seen with Varys and Littlefinger, we've seen a very small amount from Littlefinger with that. Just the sorry that I gave you to Ramsay to Sansa, but now we've seen a couple scenes this season of Varys being remorseful for some of the things that he's seen and had to do. And so, like, I think we're being led to believe that Varys is someone that we can sort of wholeheartedly trust and root for. And I think like his arc has sort of gotten us there over the last couple seasons, but especially the momentum has really kicked up in this season.
Yeah, and it's a refreshing character arc because so many people look out for themselves. So if he is truly talking about the betterment of the realm, then that would be super refreshing for a character. That doesn't mean, and we're kind of talking about this with Dany too, like I think she almost knows that she has to, like you said, put fear in people's minds to fear her a little bit and her dragons and what she can do, but she also has all these people behind her that she has as free people that just want to follow her, right? So there's like these two sides of every coin. All right, cool. So next we get Jon, Dany, Davos, Varys, and Tyrion all around the painted table. And Jon reads off the scroll that he gets from Bran, and he says he thought Bran was dead, he thought Arya was dead. And then they go into some detail about the fact that Cersei thinks the army of the dead is a tale, something. And again, to your point, Brogan, in this random storyline, I think a lot of people that grew up privileged in Winterfell think of it as just a story kids were told to be scared, right? So we get those.
Why you want to be good, so you don't become a black and have to go guard the wall.
Right. I equated it to the Krampus earlier.
That's right. Yeah.
Great comparison.
So we get a lot here. We get the plans to essentially go sneak away like Ocean's 11 and steal a White Walker.
I heard the opening credits music of Ocean's 11. Like. With the lines and stuff going crazy, yeah.
Are they going to end it in front of the Mirage with the water?
Smoking a stogie, yeah.
It really was a heist scene. Like, they're all sitting there like, what could we do? It's like, oh, well, if she's not going to go north of the wall and find one, we'll bring one to her, and that will totally convince her otherwise. And I feel like this is really half-baked. Like,
I think
the whole
this
thing.
is a terrible plan. Just a terrible plan.
I totally 100% agree. But before we get into the specifics of the plan and stuff, I want to go back to what I teased way earlier. Is we're starting to see what we talked about last week now. We're starting to see this real seeds of an armistice being planted, and seeds of, hey, we might not have everybody we need to win this war. We might also need Cersei. We might also need her army to do this. And then we'll worry about what's happening here later.
And I also want to point out, it was when... Who was the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch before Jon Snow?
G.R. Mormont?
Nope.
Oh,
in between.
The douche.
Yeah.
The douche.
Let's call him the douche.
Yeah, so when the douche was Lord Commander... Anyway, they sent a severed hand. Because remember, they brought two White's bodies in. They sent a severed hand off to King's Landing for the exact same purpose of what we're about to see happen now.
Yep.
Of course, we're led to assume that hand stopped moving by the time it got down there, and they're like, why are they sending us?
Alistair Thorne.
Thank you. Alistair Thorne.
Yep.
Yes, I should know this.
Google fact check.
But yeah, so this has been proposed once before and didn't work.
Well, it disintegrated, right, before they got...
That's kind of the assumption I think we're led to make.
And we saw, for a few reasons, right? Now we know, okay, we've got to get a full one there, and maybe that does make this plan seem a little less crazy. They've tried this before, they know that they're trying to show proof, and it's not like they can go just snap a photo of it and take a selfie with one and put it on Facebook. They're like, all right, we got to bring one to Cersei. And then we saw the path for this happening start to be paved with the conversation between Tyrion and Jaime, which I thought was one of the cooler scenes that we've been treated to in a couple of seasons of Game of Thrones. To have Jaime, shout out to, what's the guy's name? I can't remember.
Nicholas Castor-Waldau.
Yeah.
Dude is fucking killing it this season.
He's great.
Hold on, rewind though, because Emilia Clarke, when both Jorah and Jon sign up to go north of the wall, has that freak out moment too, where you can see it in her eyes, more so with Jon than with Jorah. But the way when Jon goes, he's not going alone, I'll be there too, she chokes up, her eyes well up, and it's just damn, can we get some acting awards here?
Wow.
Because they are...
Yeah, everybody's killing it.
This season is unreal.
Everybody really is.
We've clearly discussed this every episode about how the actors are just bringing A game. And Joe, you talked about it being a passion project. I think for the actors, they're just having fun. And they get to enjoy this stuff, and they're just as much of fans as we are.
They're getting paid enough to have fun.
Season 7 is for the actors. And that should be a hashtag, because they all kill it. And to Seth's point, I think even Arya and other people at that point do that. So
it's amazing.
We're getting into kind of this funky stage of the episode where we jump around a lot. So that's not technically what's next, but we can go there.
No, let's go to the other thing first, because it's great.
So what happens exactly next is Sansa is at the round table in the north, and she's kind of getting berated by all these opinions of other people that where the hell is Jon? You're not queen of the north, etc., etc. And Arya's kind of watching it from a distance, and you get again this kind of tension of Sansa
fucking
isn't
Lord Glover.
Yeah, fucking Lord Glover.
Royce and Glover.
God, those guys just keep yapping.
Well, does Royce stand up for Sansa? I think he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glover kind of denounces her and is we came
surprised
for Jon.
little Mormont didn't jump down down Glover's
Yeah,
throat again.
I was just gonna say, where is
I
she?
think she might be taking a nap.
Shut up, little Glover.
The little bear with the claws were going to come out. So we see this kind of happen. I don't know if we need to spend a lot of time on it, but Arya's kind of getting a play for what's happening in the North. And then from there, we have them together, and they seem to obviously disagree. Arya kind of says, you know, you didn't defend Jon in this region, or when they were attacking him in the chamber room, you know, what's going on.
The reunion honeymoon is over.
Yeah.
It's over now, and now we're the sisters are back together, and the same differences that used to drive them apart are sort of starting to rear their heads again, right?
I think no matter how much they grow, like they kind of grew up on their paths, regardless of their journey. I think, and again, this comes in a little bit later too. You see these just like wisps of when they were younger, and Sansa being the girl who loves the pretty things and wants to hold it over people.
Of course, you got mom and dad's room.
Right? God, got the better room. And then you've got Arya, who went on this hardening path and became a killer. And granted, she shows some sides of that, but like she became the warrior she wanted to be. And there's still this like tension, like they were little girls back in season 1, despite all of these things that they've learned and gone through.
Arya's like, I just want to play with my toys, aka I just want to kill everybody that just disarmed or disnamed Jon in that table room, right? She's like, let me at him, essentially. But we get
When
from
they lose their heads.
Yeah, we get from Sansa that she really gets this teamwork angle that Jon's been preaching, that everybody together is the only reason we're in Winterfell at all. So she's kind of giving that back to Arya in this back and forth here.
Honorable mention, Ghost.
Yeah,
Sansa
right.
does say something
Yeah, what did
about
she
Ghost.
say? I caught it, but I
goes,
didn't-
missed
you
it.
can't. She goes, you can't expect them to all sit around and wait for him like Ghost.
Okay.
Just a quick,
Oh, that
just
makes sense.
Yeah.
just a quick little, little
Shout out to
snippet.
Ghost. Where's Ghost?
Just hanging somewhere. Last time we saw him was at the wall.
I feel like he'd be really helpful.
And,
That's
like,
really
they-
strange. Where are the dire wolves? That's a whole separate
Well, there's
conversation.
not too
we
many
should
of
have.
them left.
Just 2, right?
We've got 2.
We saw Nymeria.
Ghost
think,
and
yeah.
Nymeria.
The joke the joke that's been floating the internet is the CGI budget got spent on the dragon, and there's no room left for Ghost, right? So
His red eyes really take up a budget.
All right, where do we go next?
yeah. So next we have Davos and Tyrion pull up on the sands of King's Landing, and we can drive straight into really.
Kidding. Davos continues to be my fucking favorite character on this show.
Can we
man.
discuss that he is the Han Solo
Yes.
of Game of Thrones?
Shout out
he's,
to the Onion Knight, man.
He's the smuggler. He's the guy with the smooth talking ability. The guy
Comic
is
relief.
just he's
Yep.
great.
Yeah,
he is
he-
Han Solo.
He's had some swagger too recently in these episodes, and he was awesome in this one.
I got to be honest. Do we go to the next scene?
Yeah, so they kind of break up. He
Yep.
says like I got business somewhere up otherwise, so him and Tyrion part ways.
All right, so let's talk about Davos's path first. Let's just get into it.
Oh,
Because
fuck
I cheered out loud audibly on my couch and freaked out. I did not expect at first that this was going to be the way that we
Really?
get reintroduced again.
As soon as he said it, I knew it. As soon as he said, I've got business, because he was the last person to meet him. I was like, what else does he have to do in King's Landing? But all right, go ahead.
But we had no reason
This
to
may
believe
have
Gendry
been
went back
this
to
may have been
Fleabottom.
spoiled for me.
Oh, no.
There was definitely an article out there that IMDb had Gendry's, whoever the actor is, his name was listed on this episode, and literally
hate when they do
the
that.
article said, "Did IMDb just spoil this character's return?" And it's a picture of Gendry, and I was like, I'm not going to say anything to anybody. I'm not going to even try to bring this up. If he shows up, awesome. And then he goes into Flea Bottom, and
Whoever wrote that article.
he goes into Flea Bottom, and I was like, son of a
Son
bitch,
of a
he's showing
bitch.
up.
But man, like all of a sudden, by the way, does Gendry not look like Christian Bale?
Yeah.
Like when he turned
Little
around,
bit,
I was
yeah.
like, "Fuck, that's
Yeah.
Christian Bale." Like, dude looks exactly like Bruce
He could
Wayne.
play like a
Christian
young
Bale.
Batman now.
Yeah,
The
that would be.
new
I would get
Yeah,
behind
right?
that.
Yeah.
I
the
would get
new
behind
way
that.
to the new way to track time, how quickly Gendry's hair grows.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that would be amazing.
He probably had a couple
Keep an eye on
haircuts
it.
at this point.
So, so we get reintroduced to Gendry, who is hilariously blunt. You know what I mean? Like, it's so fitting that he uses, like, a blunt object as a weapon because of how blunt he is with his words, right? Like, Davos starts to give him the old, like, explanation, like, hey, look, he's like, nope, I'm in. And it was just like, all right, we're back.
Easiest recruitment ever.
Yeah.
So great.
But what were the specific words that Davos said as soon as he realized it was Gendry?
I thought
Thought
you'd
you'd
still be
still be
rowing.
rowing.
Yeah. It's such a
Davos
great
is
payoff.
all of the audience just in a meme.
I agree, but like I think there's a case to be made that Davos is sort of the audience, right? Because not only does he make like a funny comment like that, he makes another one later on when he's like, "Well, why would anyone listen to me? You know, I just played this
Seasoned
song." You know what I
vet.
mean? Yeah, like
Only live to a ripe old age.
Yeah. I thought it was